How is You Like Me, Not My Daughter? Well, surprisingly good.
It's that light novel guy.
Hey guys, it's me, that light novel guy. And today we're talking about another light novel, and this is one that, well, a few people have hyped up over the last few months as being an ecchi series with heart. Today we're looking at You Like Me, Not My Daughter. So this is an interesting one. This has been brought to us in English by J Novel Club, and I was a little bit hesitant at first because I've read a few of these titles where the mom is obviously the centre of attention. For example, we had Mom Isekai, and we also had, well, she wasn't a mom, but she was a lot older, and it was the Are You Okay with a Slightly Older Girlfriend, in which both ones, well, there is an age gap. Now, this does have an age gap, however, well, the mom is 30 and the love interest is 20. So, You Like Me, Not My Daughter is basically what it says on the tin. A young man falls head over heels with the 20-year-old mom of a 5-year-old daughter. At this point, he is 10, and the reason he falls in love is because she is inspiring to him. The young girl, well, 5-year-old, actually loses her parents. So this mom, she actually isn't really the mom, she's an aunt or something like that, in which she decides, oh, I'm going to look after her and make sure she grows up not alone. And he falls head over heels for that particular reason. Fast forward 10 years, the daughter is 15, he's 20, and the mom is 30. And he reveals on a drunken night that he's been in love with her forever. And she's just like, what? You like me and not my 15-year-old daughter? Yeah, so there is an age gap. So mom is 30, love interest is 20, but she thinks that the 20-year-old is going to get with the 15-year-old. Yikes, yeah. And that's the weird thing about it, is that the whole thing is kind of like, I don't know, most normal 20-year-olds are going to be more interested in a 30-year-old than they are a 15-year-old. And obviously the guy is also in a situation where he's the tutor for the 15-year-old, so that makes it even more weird. So yeah, I kind of find that the whole surprise thing doesn't work for me. It really didn't. It kind of was like, I was kind of like, well, yeah, it kind of makes sense to me. I mean, unless you kind of want the main guy to be a paedophile, it's just weird. Now, we have seen other series where the main guy might be 16 or 17 and the mom is like 30, or the older character is a lot older. For example, Are You Okay with a Slightly Older Girlfriend, where I think she was 28 and he was 16. And yeah, it's kind of, I know it's a trope in Japan to have a big age gap, but compared to a lot of series, this one felt a little bit more natural. So one of the good things about this particular series is that the cast is actually pretty darn good. The main character is the mom. So normally we have it as the protagonist is the male character and he's trying to gain the affection of the female character, which, yeah, normally kind of works. But this one, the mom is the main character, so it is her point of view. And I quite like that. I really liked it. I mean, we have the usual thing of Japan being all, oh, once you're 30-year-old and you're female, if you're single, you might as well just be 5 million years old and sent out for pasture. Yeah, I don't really like that thing. At the end of the day, it's like 30 is very, very young, still plenty of time to do many things. Quite frankly, I hate the whole Japanese culture of assuming somebody who's 30 and single might as well just be rubbish. I hate that. But I really did like the fact that the mom was somewhat successful in her career. It also says about how work kind of adapted around her looking after this young girl. And the mom is genuinely a likeable character. The male protagonist is also pretty likeable. It's one of those things that I kind of find that a lot of these series fumble one or the other. For example, Alia kind of made it so he was constantly saving her and he wasn't particularly interesting. Angel Next Door, they're both very young, very awkward around each other. But this one, the main character, is kind of somewhat successful. He's smart. He's now technically a young adult, and he's tutoring the young daughter. And I quite liked it. I actually quite like the design for the main character as well, because one of the things I do want to talk about very briefly is the artwork. Is that the series looks very ecchi, and there is some very ecchi scenes, something we will talk about in very shortly. But the main character looks all shoujo-y kind of thing, so I kind of like that aspect of it, that he was kind of like a young handsome boy. He wasn't kind of your typical nerd who's kind of not done anything with his life or whatever. It kind of made sense. So the other character we have is the daughter, who is somewhat interesting. She's a 15-year-old. She's known that he's liked the mom for forever, and yeah, that's kind of it. It's kind of like they use her as kind of a plot device, but it's not really had much development. If I'm perfectly honest, the characters haven't really had much development, but I also don't feel like there's much wrong with them. They're likeable for who they are. They're not really going to stand out, but there's nothing particularly wrong either. It's genuinely one where you can read the title and it's pretty darn acceptable. So what I liked about this is that it doesn't really beat around the bush. We don't have the will they, won't they get together kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the first volume, which to be fair was quite short. The first volume, I think on Bookwalker, even though I had it zoomed in, there was only like 100 or so pages. And yeah, it was a very short, very easy to read title. Got through it very fast, and by the end, there is a bit of development with the relationship. So it's not one of these ones where they're going to drag out the will they, won't they for God knows how long, 10 volumes, and then at the end they're going, oh well, I loved you all along kind of thing. No, they kind of get together pretty fast, or like by the end of volume 1 they're pretty much together, and we're just going to see all of these shenanigans of what happens between them. I really, really appreciated that. Like I said, the characters were likeable enough, and we got enough of a backstory for the mom to make her likeable. She feels like she's her own character. She's not just kind of the object of desire. I do like that. I do appreciate that, the fact that they went out of the way to make her more of a character. Like I said, the main male character is likeable enough as well. In general, it was just quite a nice little title. However, there's one moment that I really wasn't a fan of. Now, one of the things that I do want to talk about is that this is also essentially an ecchi series. Nearly every single picture is of the mom, and there is a few pictures of her basically naked with, you know, clouds from her coming out of the shower kind of in front of her. That's kind of fine for what it is. However, there is a flashback sequence, and there is a flashback sequence in which the mom and the young boy, who is 10 at the time, start to bond. Now, he's the next door neighbour. I know Japan has a culture where kind of like, if each of us will look after kind of each other's children when they need to, that's fine. However, there is a sequence where they behave together, and I don't object to this as a whole. When you look at it as a mom and a child, that is fine. 10-year-old, a little bit older, what I would expect. I would normally expect like 5 or 6, but it's kind of written that she's got no feelings like for him or anything like that, and she just remembers this time where they behaved together. But he's kind of like he's 10-year-old, and he's just like, I'm at the point where all I care about is boobs. And I was just like, what 10-year-old cares about boobs at this point? I mean, when I was 10, 10-year-old, I was playing Ocarina of Time, where it was just like, that was the biggest concern in my life. Will I ever beat the water temple? And I was kind of thinking maybe it's just me. And I asked other people, and they were like, no, I was still more into like kind of gaming and watching cartoons and stuff like that. I wasn't really into kind of women, and it kind of sets it up like I could understand if this character was 15 or 16 and he was like, oh, I'm obsessed with boobs, and it kind of goes on how he's describing how she looks naked, and I'm kind of like, yeah, it doesn't make sense from a 10-year-old point of view. It just felt very weird. I kind of feel like it was an excuse to kind of have ecchi, shorter picture put in. There's a bit where kind of like he's pressed against her chest, and that's the image. And yeah, I didn't like it. Now, the series kind of starts off where she's kind of like, she just thinks of him as a child, and then once she realises that he's into her, when he's 20, she starts to look at him as an adult. But the flashback thing did feel very awkward, and while it was somewhat innocent, the male character going, oh, well, I was obsessed with her boobs kind of thing, just didn't really sit right with me. It really didn't. So, what did I think about this series overall? I actually quite liked it, if I'm perfectly honest. I had a good time. It was very easy to read. I read it in about 2 or 3 hours. And there wasn't really, like I said, there was some problems, but compared to a lot of other series that's kind of try to do this, it does do things rather well. It moves very fast. There is a very sudden movement between her thinking of him as a child to her thinking of him as a man. That kind of a little bit too fast, but yeah, and the whole bathing sequence, yeah, it was a little bit too much. I've got a feeling there's going to be a few moments as the series goes on, but overall, for Volume 1, it was a lot better than I expected, and honestly, I was genuinely surprised. Now, I bought this genuinely expecting this to be pure trash, because I've read a lot of trash light novels. I've read a lot of bad ecchi light novels. But if I'm perfectly honest, this is probably one of the better ones I've read. Low bar, yeah, but it's well thought out. The characters are adults. Yeah, there's an age gap between the mom and the main character by 10 years, but they are both technically adults. Yeah, I mean, it's still a bit uncomfortable, but it's definitely better than him being 15 or whatever. But it did a lot of things right. It made the relationship somewhat kind of believable, and it didn't beat around the bush too much. I think if you kind of are on the fence about this and you are looking at it and thinking, oh, this one's going to be a bit trash, try it out. It might be better than you expect.